Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. As always, we're just going to give it just a couple of minutes before we get started, as people are obviously still joining now. I can see those numbers creeping up, which is fantastic, but hope you're all having a great day so far. Just give it a couple of other little moments, and perhaps I could have a couple of thumbs up just to confirm that everyone can see and hear me okay. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay, good. So as I can see, many people have already joined. Let's get started on today's session. So first of all, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve from the customer success team here at Teamdash, and I work closely with our clients across Europe, actually many of you who have joined here today, to get the most out of hiring with Teamdash. And today we're going to focus on something that often gets overlooked in the hiring process, which is language. Now, across the world, we operate in an incredibly multilingual talent market. And the language that we use in job ads and careers pages can have a real impact on who understands the opportunity and who feels confident enough to apply. So in today's session, we're going to look briefly at why that matters. And then we'll jump into the practical part where I'm going to show you how you can actually create your multilingual job ads and careers pages quickly and extremely easily in Teamdash. Now, before we dive into the practical side of things, I just want to start with something quite simple, actually, and please bear with me. So, hello, Tera, sveiki, yabas. Hi, bonjour, hola. Thank you for putting up with that. Now, these are just a few ways which we greet each other across Europe, and they represent something quite important. That Europe isn't one language, it's dozens, hundreds actually. I actually like to call it a linguistic mosaic. Bit of a tongue twister, but I think it sounds quite nice. And the language that we all use in our job ads and careers pages shouldn't just be cultural, they should actually be strategic. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the languages that we use can actually directly influence who understands the opportunity, who feels confident enough to apply, and ultimately who ends up entering our talent pipeline. And that's really what today's session is all about. It's about making sure we're not unintentionally limiting our talent pipeline. Now, with Teamdash's rapid growth, we are working with an ever-increasing number of organizations that do have a need to hire across borders, tap into that global talent market. And so with that, we're continuously increasing our offering and the functionality available with some amazing new features, which really do help facilitate these kind of multi-country or group businesses that need both global oversight, but also very localized flexibility. Now, although we have users all over the world, and again, many of you have joined today, which I'm really, really grateful for, no matter what the time zone is, so really appreciate that. We're going to focus specifically on Europe today, just for the examples in the session. And as you can see, Europe has over 220 indigenous languages across about 47 countries. 24 of those are official EU languages, but there's also over 60 additional regional and minority languages. So this quite clearly makes it one of the richest linguistic landscapes in the world. And for those of you who are hiring across borders, this of course becomes very relevant. So to help us understand where and how you're all hiring today, I've actually created just a couple of short poll questions, and I'd really appreciate it if you just take just a few moments just to pop over to the polls tab and just answer the first two questions for me. as I say, just helps us to get a really good understanding of where you, the audience today, are hiring and how you're actually approaching that. So I'll just give you a couple of moments, as I say, and I'd really, really appreciate that. Just the first 2 questions for now. And don't worry, there aren't loads more. There's only 2 more. So just the first 2 for now, please. Fantastic. Thank you. So as we've just seen, Europe is incredibly multilingual. Across the continent, actually, most working age adults speak at least 1 foreign language. Now, I'm ashamed to say, coming from the UK, we can't and don't really include ourselves in that. But for many of you attending today, especially from the Baltics and Nordic countries, for example, that number is well over 90% of people. And in places like Slovenia, Luxembourg, more than half the population actually speaks more than 3 languages, which is, of course, super impressive. But multilingual ability doesn't remove the importance of precision, especially when it comes down to someone's career choices. For example, knowing a language conversationally is one thing, but when reading and truly understanding a job ad, which could, of course, include responsibilities, expectations, potentially legal and compliance terms, it's another thing completely. And so when our candidates are making that kind of decision, then clarity really does matter. Now, some analysis of millions of European job ads, actually, by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, shows that language skills are consistently referenced across roles. And I know that many of you also specify specific language requirements in many of your roles, especially in the higher skilled positions. Again, you have to apologize. I have to apologize. I'm using English as the example here, but English within all of those millions of job ads, in 22% of them was explicitly stated as being required. And although there are many others, but on a lot lower kind of percentage, it does tell us something that's quite important, that employers already treat language as something that is strategic, even if unknowingly doing so. So if expectations in job ads are clear, then the accessibility to them should be too. That's my thoughts. So we all already spend a lot of time optimizing how we source, automating our workflows with the help of Teamdash, of course, enhancing our employer branding and analyzing statistics. For example, finding out why candidates may drop out of the process. But that's normally after the application has taken place. And something that's often much, much harder to analyze is what I call the quiet drop-off. Now, this is when applicants drop out of the process before even applying. Yes, we can see that we've had people visit our page. Yes, we can see the conversion rates in terms of applications, but we don't know why those people that don't apply aren't applying. And so the real first filter isn't the application process itself. It's actually whether candidates clearly understand the opportunity that they're reading. And of course, they may well speak and can read the language that the ad is published in. But if they had an option to read it in their mother tongue, and that was also available, it's much more likely to increase their confidence in making that application. And it also shows you as a business truly embrace the access that you have to this global talent market that I've been talking about. So if language creates any amount of friction, confidence levels can drop. And with that, suitable applications can drop too, possibly without you even realizing it. So as I say, the quiet drop-off, something to think about. Now, I do want to make it clear that this is in no way about replacing your local language, nor is it just simply about translation. It's much more about expanding access and the reach that we have to this global talent market. Because when candidates read your opportunity in the language that they feel most precise in or most comfortable with, then they evaluate it more confidently. And with that increase in confidence, it actually makes better aligned applicants. Now, again, I'm just going to ask you, if you really don't mind, just to pop over to the polls tab and just answer question 3 for me, if you wouldn't mind. That would be much, much appreciated at this stage. Thank you very much. Now, if language is already part of hiring strategy, even if we haven't specifically designed for it, and if candidate confidence affects their application behavior, then the question now does become, well, how easy is it to make your job ads and careers pages available in multiple languages without creating a whole load of extra admin and operational chaos? So let's jump in to the practical part of the demo session now, and let me show you exactly that. Okay. So we're actually going to use an example of a customer success manager role in Lithuania. And you can see that currently our job ad is currently in Lithuanian, but we also want to attract international talent. And so what you'll notice up here and what the candidate gets to see is that we do have the option to then switch languages. So again, you can see that this ad's Lithuanian currently, but perhaps I'm a native English speaker, or perhaps my native language is something other than Lithuanian, even though I can speak it and even though I can read it, and I may be living in Lithuania, but perhaps I would feel much more comfortable reading it in my mother tongue. And that's exactly what we've got here. So I just want to reiterate, this is the same job ad. It's the same page. We've just got language layers on it. In addition of it being the same job ad, the same page, it's exactly the same application process. And you can see down here that if I switch languages, again, the application form, again, will also switch languages with us. So we want to make the experience as good as possible for the candidates. We want to ensure that this doesn't create a huge amount of extra workload for you as the hiring teams when you're having to create these. So this is what it looks like externally for candidates and applicants. Let's now jump in and actually have a look how we can do this within Teamdash. So many of you will already recognize this screen here. This is our job ad builder function within Teamdash. And you can see I've already got a job ad pretty well prepared here. But one thing that you might notice is that we've now also got this language management function up here in the toolbar. And if I just click this drop down, we can see that I've already got English and Estonian language already set. But if we want to add additional languages, we can simply pop open this modal here. We've actually got 28 languages currently that you can choose from in terms of having the automatic translations. And we can, of course, add more upon request as well. But let's again say, for example, right, okay, we will also want this ad to be available in Latvian and Lithuanian. We can see clearly that currently, yes, we've got it already translated in English and Estonian, but currently none of it's been translated to these two languages. Now, without this sort of tool, to carry out those translations across all of the different blocks would take a decent amount of time. And also currently, or in many systems, you actually have to clone the job ad landing page itself before you create those translations. So I'm going to reiterate this a few times. This is one job ad, one process, one page, just with the translation layers. And I'm actually going to go ahead and use AI to help me here. Now, AI is very good and it's very helpful, but I would say that it still couldn't necessarily be classed as perfect in all scenarios. And so whenever we're using AI, and we reiterate this for all of our tools, you should always do the final checks because there could be some slight nuances. Perhaps your brand tone of voice needs to be injected. And so although within seconds there, you can see that I've now had this page translated into 2 additional languages, the entirety of this page, it's always worth checking again for those slight nuances. Okay, But hopefully you can see just how quickly and easily I've been able to translate this page now and increase the access to the talent that we're potentially looking to attract. Now, something else I wanted to show you is that, let's say, for example, we have our marketing team and they've said, hey, great, look, we need to add an additional section to our job ads. Can you please add in now the Teamdash mission, for example? So I'm just going to jump across here. We'll just use a plain text block for this example. And you can see straight away that I've got missing translations. So if we make an update to our core language and we add some different content, then Teamdash immediately recognizes that there are some translations missing. Now, of course, right now, this is just our default text, but again, I'm just going to use AI very quickly to write the Teamdash mission. I'm simply going to type Teamdash mission here. And of course, it knows everything about Teamdash. And so it is now going to write, again, just a very brief statement about our mission there. Now, of course, we've got these translations missing, but we make it extremely easy again. If we just pop up here to manage our languages, first of all, we can see that we've got 94%. Let's just quickly get these new additions translated. And boom, just like magic, again, we can now see everything has now been translated. And if we flick between the languages, we can see all of that work has been done for us. In addition to adding languages, we can choose which of these is set as our default language. We can reorder the position that they appear in the drop down for the candidate. And of course, we can choose to remove any that we no longer need as well. So managing multiple languages on the same job ad, on the same landing page, using the same application process, super fast, super easy. I can now go ahead and get this published. Now, of course, let's again compare this to how you may have been doing things previously or how you may have experienced it with other systems. Typically, you have to duplicate the job. You have to manually add the translations, which of course I can still add manual translations, not a problem. But by using the AI, it's just going to speed things up tenfold. So we focused up until now on our job ads, on the actual landing pages themselves. But of course, careers pages are perhaps somewhere where it's even more important to really have that kind of understanding of the different kind of global market nuances that we might need. Now, I'm just going to show you a really good example, actually, from one of our amazing clients, Le Creuset. So many of you will, I'm sure, already know Le Creuset, may even use their products. If you don't, you should. They're amazing. But Le Creuset truly understand the importance of this kind of making sure that your brand is seen, first of all, to be a brand that really does truly embrace global talent. But also the importance of making sure that their content is accessible for everybody, their likely audience. And so you can see here that Le Creuset actually have a large number of translatable pages. All, again, it's the exact same URL. We just get this slight little change here to the end. So I could share it in a specific language if I want to. But again, you can see that we've got a really nice, well thought out careers page, global careers page, which is made extremely accessible. So yeah, really, really good example there. Le Creuset actually have a very specific tone of voice as well in terms of when they talk about their brand. And so although they used AI to help slightly, they actually added their own specific translations because, as I say, tone of voice and your brand kind of identity will often get lost if you're just using AI to do the translation. So always have this kind of hybrid approach of using AI to speed things up, but actually having the final say so and the final input from a human there as well. Good. Okay. Now, we do have one final question in the poll, actually, which I would love for you to do in just a moment. But we're just going to now talk about really kind of summarize what we've been talking about there. So we've seen that the world, and in particular Europe, is hugely multilingual, which means that your talent market could also be multilingual. And language is already potentially part of your hiring strategy, whether, as I say earlier, you've actually designed for it or not. So the question really isn't whether candidates can speak multiple languages, it's whether we're making it easy for them to evaluate our opportunities with complete clarity and confidence. Because when candidates feel more confident, they actually apply differently. They align themselves better with the opportunity, which helps to increase the quality of our applicants. They would engage with you more, which increases the volume of our applicants. And so multilingual job ads and careers pages aren't really just about translation just for the sake of it. They're about expansion, expanding the reach, expanding the access, and of course, expanding the opportunities. And so when your hiring grows across borders, then your candidate experience should also grow with it. That's certainly our thought, and I know that it's shared by many of you, having speaking to you. I do appreciate that there are scenarios where you may only need and want to, and actually have to, based on certain national criteria, advertise your roles in one language. But please do also keep in mind, just because somebody needs to speak that language and they need to be able to read it, it doesn't mean that that is necessarily their first language. You could have somebody who speaks it very well to a very high level, who can read it very well to a very high level, but they still have a mother tongue where they would feel much more comfortable reading it in their language. So just something to think about. As I say, it's not always going to be appropriate, but it's my thought that we're in a world now where hiring has changed, especially since 2020 with the prevalence of remote work. And now you having access to a much larger pool of global talent. Let's not put up potential barriers to avoid us actually reaching that global talent. So that's what Teamdash is really all about. We're here to really help you expand, as I say, the opportunities that you've got, and to increase those opportunities. So as I say, there was one final question to answer in the polls tab. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd really appreciate you just taking a moment to answer that, if that's okay. And of course, I'm now very happy to open up the floor to any questions that you might have. Feel free to write them either privately in the questions tab or to share them in the chat, which I will just pop open now. Great, let's have a look. Okay, let's jump into the questions tab. Yes, so really good question there. It is possible, and that is the whole purpose of having the different translations. So I could, for example, and I'm just going to show you again here. So the question was, is it possible to have different text under different languages? So if there's slight adjustments done in Lithuanian, for example, and it not to be doubled to the English page. Exactly that. So what I could do here, for example, let's just change this to Lithuanian. If I then make any changes here, which of course I can do, that will only be reflected on the Lithuanian version of the page. Okay, so if I flick back to English or Estonian, everything is still as it was. And this is really important. And that was a really great question, because again, the way that you word things to different talent markets may be slightly different. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to use a really crazy example. Maybe I know that English people like emojis. So I could say, add some emojis on my English version, but obviously have that then not affect the other language versions that I've got. And again, we can use AI to help us. So if I wanted to maybe say in here, make this section more focused on Lithuanian talent market, of course, AI will give us our suggestions. But again, it's just an example that we can specifically change specific sections. So you have complete control. That even includes the application form, actually. So although Teamdash will automatically recognize the language that we're using and it will update the form, providing we've got that language, there is still complete control. So we actually have some clients that do have their job ads in multiple languages, but they always want their application form to be in English. Complete control. You absolutely decide on what you can control there. Good. Okay. I'm just going to jump over. I hope that you have all managed to answer some of those poll questions. I'd really appreciate it if you have. But I guess finally, I just wanted to also mention that if you do want some further information, then please feel free to jump over to the links tab, where we will provide a link for the Help Center article to this particular feature, and also a link so that you can find out a little bit more by contacting your customer success manager, who will be very happy to demo the feature to you, and also again to answer any additional questions. So if this does feel relevant, either now or at any point in the future, we would love to explore what it could look like for you. And yeah, it just leaves me to finally thank you once again for joining today. We have saved some time, because in true Teamdash fashion, we can do things so quickly and easily that we win you time back in your day. So, you know, I've tried to do that again for you. So thank you for scheduling the hour. We've managed to do it in a shorter space of time. Hopefully it gave you some good insights and things to think about. Thank you for joining today, and have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye. Take care. Ciao.